All right, everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. This is Sandcast, the holiday edition with Bourne, and as is our new custom, our last episode of the month is with UCLA star Savvy Simo.
Woo!
Sav, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. How are we?
Merry Christmas. We're doing
Good. Hanging in there.
Love it. Just getting ready to go. Getting ready to play some volley again.
Yeah, it's about that time for you. It's
I'm craving it.
You're what, 9 days out from coming back?
9 days out from coming back, but only I don't know, 4 or 5 days away from touching the ball.
Yeah, you got
Let's
a crew
go.
That's nice.
I guess are you and Trevor getting a little Hawaii training camp before you come back?
We're only gonna touch it for about 2 days, and then we'll head back to Cali. Originally, we were gonna do a longer training camp and fly Jose out, but it just doesn't make sense right now with the tentative.
Yeah, I'm gonna say last year
Cali.
you guys had that epic monster video and photo shoot. It was a pretty cool place. That ended up being the cover of our book.
Yeah, exactly. No, nothing cool this year, but hopefully next off season is epic.
Yeah. Well, Sav, you've had quite a couple events here. You just moved. You're back on campus at UCLA, which is exciting. Your last year. Ideally, there won't be another COVID year to make it a sixth season for you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a transition for sure. I've been home since March, and I thought when I moved home, like, I'm gonna hate this. I don't want to live at home, blah blah. And I got so comfortable at home. Love San Diego. Love the group of girls I trained with. You know, I had a really great inner circle, and it was awesome. And so I kind of, when we came back in the fall, I was commuting, and because we weren't training a whole lot. And so this was like, we ended up signing a 6-month lease, the girls that were kind of commuting. And I didn't realize until we had to come back, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not ready. Like, I had to pack, and it was just, I hadn't really done a whole lot in like 9 months. So it's been a transition for sure, but I have a great department, great roommates, and I'm back up at UCLA, and we have a week of quarantine, and hopefully we start training next Monday, and hopefully have a season like you guys. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's exciting. Do you know when your season would start? Because usually it's like February-ish?
Yeah, it's like late February, I think, but we don't I haven't been shown a schedule. Maybe I'm just out of the loop. I don't know. But as of now, I don't know what our schedule is. I think we have games in late February, mid-February. So it's like a really quick turnaround, and we can't train for 7 days right now. And I'm sure people didn't train on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So we're all kind of like, all the training we did after we left in the fall is like, I feel like it's hard because I conditioned, I trained, and now we have to sit here in our apartment and not do anything. So it's tough for sure. But I think we start in February, and it's all kind of a weekly basis type of thing, I feel like, because if someone's positive or the other team has a positive or the officials, it's all so many unknowns. I don't even know if we're going to be able to fly, if we're going to play teams just within a certain radius of our school. I don't really know. I think it's just a bunch of moving pieces for all athletes at UCLA and across the country. And so we're all just having to be flexible, patient, and just trust the process. And we know that everyone on the staff is working hard to help. And it's kind of all we can do is just try and get everyone back and COVID free for training so that we have the best chance of competing, because it's been too long, way too long.
Yeah, too long for everyone. We're all like so close to being able to compete. Sorry, Try.
No, we had a team meeting today, and we are just kind of talking about how this next year or so is really going to be like a competition of who can adapt best, right? It's not like, it's almost like, it kind of sucks when you're the top team, actually, like UCLA, because you know what your strengths are, and you guys are dominant at volleyball. But like this year might come down to just like who's gonna adapt best and like make changes the fastest and like be prepared for those events that just pop up, or I guess not burn out for events that don't happen.
Yeah.
But so it's gonna be interesting for sure. And it's crazy. Like, I didn't even think about like the college athletes that have to do somewhat of their own bubble.
Yeah, it's like way more strict than you would think. And I think because we're in LA, we have like the worst of it because the cases are so bad here. So we have to follow the LA guidelines. And I mean, UCLA is just such a big name school. We don't want a bad reputation. We don't want all this stuff. So they're taking possible, which is great. That's what needs to be done. But it's like you wouldn't think. I mean, for a beach volleyball player, you get out in the sand and you go play. You don't high five. You're outside, whatever. But we gotta follow all these guidelines. So it's just, you know, like everyone, being patient and hoping for the best.
How's the temperature been in Cali? Is it cold?
It's kind of cold, but I'm also like such a chicken. I don't like the cold weather. But
It's weird. Like it poured all day yesterday,
mm-hmm.
like torrential downpour the whole day, which is awesome. So it was freezing, and then
I'm not coming back.
I wouldn't.
And but then today it was like beautiful in the morning, and then me, Delaney, and Marcio went out to coach this afternoon, and it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds. Like it was like one of those things where like the ball, you could put it on the sand, and in 5 minutes it would be like 200 yards down the beach. So we just told the girls to go home.
Oh no.
So the weather is it's weird, but dude, the waves are huge.
Yeah.
Firing.
I'm supposed to stop getting in the water when I get back. That's not good.
Yeah, it'll be tempting.
The waves to be flat and the volleyball conditions to be perfect, not the opposite.
Like, I don't even surf, and I'm tempted to surf.
Hold your horses there. We don't need any lifeguard rescues.
Yeah. I was like, you want to surf in these big conditions and you don't surf? Jeez, that's ballsy.
It looks
impressive.
Fun. But Sav, I know you've got a couple fan questions for us to go through.
Of course. So there's so many and so many different ones. So I always try and like have a question come off of the other one. I want it to transition well, but yeah. I'm trying to pick, and they're all so good. But I think now going into hopefully a season for college athletes and hopefully for professional athletes, especially training for the Olympics, Omez02 asks, how do we best support the pros to raise the prize money and just support them with getting a season going? So what do you guys think about that?
That's a good question. I think that's a question that people have been trying to ask since like 1990.
Forever. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the biggest way is to support the sponsors. So I've made kind of a habit of whenever either like a player comes out with something or like there's a sponsor who's clearly helping out with, like, I didn't buy a Porsche because they sponsored it, but like if Monster Hydro is sponsoring an event, like I'll do my best to buy Monster stuff, even though I don't drink Monster or whatever, and try as like a fridge full that I can dip into kind of whenever. But I would say the best thing we can do is to support the sponsors and make them kind of feel like they're actually getting a return on their investment. I mean, I don't think that they're going to like get like a financial big ROI, but you know, if you like send a note with your purchase, which I think you can always do, and just be like, hey, like I saw this on beach volleyball. Hopefully we can just get more sponsors to stick around. Or like whenever players come out with something, like Betsy, she came out with shirts. Like I bought a couple of those. Like Tracy and Chrissy had a shirt come out and I got one of those. Just like anytime a beach player comes out with a product, I'll do whatever I can to support it, just because like I know how thin the margins are.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I mean, I can't really add much to that. I mean, I think just having a good understanding of the landscape of beach volleyball, which is something I'm constantly trying to learn. I feel like it's definitely changing, especially during these times. But yeah, just supporting. I mean, and like putting it out there, you know, supporting even just your favorite player, your favorite team. You might have a favorite team, but like, you know, let them know about it. Let your following know about it, your people, and just sharing the sport and whatever we do come out with during these times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Travis nailed it.
Todd Har, he wrote, his question was, how do we go about growing the sport and bringing more media attention to beach? So you kind of touched on it, try about posting about it and writing about it and sharing, you know, your favorite team, your favorite athletes. So I think I agree that that could be another way to bring more attention, because I think social media is such a big thing right now that it's that's kind of what you have to do to get more people to be watching beach volleyball. I don't know exactly how, but social media is the biggest thing. So.
Yeah, and like the McKibbins, I think most of the media in beach volleyball comes from those who are actually creating it. Like the McKibbins, Billy and John, like what we're doing now with Sandcast. And then, Volleyball Mag, they almost set a record this year for most page views, even though they didn't have any volleyball to actually cover, which is pretty cool. So there's like a readership there, and there's a media base there, even if it's niche. I think that the beach volleyball, your average beach volleyball fan, I think, is more passionate than like your average baseball fan. Because there are, like, if you love beach volleyball, like you really love it. Like if you're watching it on YouTube and listening to podcasts, but baseball, because there's so much of it, you can get it anywhere. So I don't know. I think that more people just need to be creating media around it, because like we've seen, like when you do create it, it ends up being pretty successful. On a smaller scale than like an NFL thing would be, but more people who are creating, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, and I feel like people don't realize that there is like, you don't have to be a player to be involved with the sport either. Like a lot of players, like ourselves, right? We're trying to create media on our own. There's a lot of help that we could use. We've been looking for kind of like interns or stuff like that to help us, or at least throwing around the ideas. I know Riley and Madison have had a lot of help from many people doing what they're doing. But I don't know, there's a lot of ways to get involved. You just got to be creative. And I think that's the biggest thing for us too right now. We have to be creative. My mind's been like churning. We have brainstorming sessions like once a month, Travis?
Something like that.
Executing on it is a little difficult for us especially right now.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of ideas spinning, and I think that's the biggest thing. If we weren't just brainstorming and trying to be creative, this podcast would have never happened. So, for the young athletes, like that's the biggest thing. You don't wait for someone else to make something for you. It doesn't work like that in our sport. Not quite yet, at least.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of the upcoming season, my girl, Ia Lindahl, she asked, can you make a list of eligible women's blockers for the 2021 season? Asking for a friend.
Man, I was out on the beach with Ben Vaught this morning, and he was like, Ben Vaught's the gossip queen of the AVP, and he always listens. So, Benny, you're a big gossiper, but he was asking like what if I'd heard anything about the partnership shuffles, but I've only been practicing like once a week, really with the same group of guys every time. So I haven't heard anything, but I think that every women's defender who isn't locked in should be texting or direct messaging Taryn Cloth and asking if she's what her plans are. I don't think you've seen her play, but she's this like 6'4" blocker who played indoor at Creighton, and now she's playing at LSU. And she played with Kristen Nuss this summer at a bunch of AVP Next and little tournaments around the country, and they did not lose one set.
I was gonna say they crushed it. Yeah,
they like smoke bombing teams, and they were playing good teams. Like they beat Kelly Kalinsky and Emily Stockman, like dominated whole match, like 21-15, 21-17 maybe. They beat Delaney and Katie. They were cruising. And Taryn is just this like 6'4", really mobile, really athletic blocker, sets well, moves well. Like if you're a women's defender and you're eligible, hit up Taryn Cloth.
She hasn't had to go through Savvy yet, though.
So I have not played her. I am hoping we can play LSU.
You played Kristen and Claire Coppola, right?
Yeah, and they were so good. Like I played with Abby this year, and I know they were always kind of playing, like had a good game against the twins from UCLA as well. And so me and Abby came into it and knew they were super. I mean, they had won like 100 games. They played together since freshman year. We beat them once, and they beat us twice, and we were hoping to get another chance at a national championship or at like an East meets West tournament hosted by UCLA, and we didn't, unfortunately. But I've never played Taryn, and she was playing, I think, in the 3s or 4s for LSU. I think in the 4s.
Yeah.
And just crushing it. And
Tommy.
she partners up with Kristen, and they're crushing it. And so I think, you know, transitioning from an indoor player, and I haven't seen her play a ton, I'm just kind of assuming, but I feel like they put her in a lower line. She's transitioning from an indoor player, and then she plays all summer and is absolutely crushing it. Like, she's just going like this. And so it's actually really cool to see. As much as there are rivals, I actually really like a lot of the really good volleyball. And so hopefully we can play against them, and love to play against her. She's legit, and they're a legit partnership. And if Kristen goes back with Claire, that's awesome too. It's another great game, but I think you're right that she's the new up and coming blocker if she sticks with it, because she's gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, on a more established basis too, I mean, we don't know like what Emily Day is going to do. And for that matter, we don't know what Betsy's going to do. I mean, who knows if the AVP starts in May? Like, I don't know how long it takes a mom to come back from having a kid, but I don't think Betsy would be too far off the mark. So there's Emily Day, Betsy, Chrissy Jones. I don't know what her plans are. There's like a fair amount of shuffling that could happen. Like, where does Sarah Hughes go?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of partnership questions on the women's side.
It's exciting for someone like me, like,
yeah,
coming out of it. I mean, I'm kind of someone like Ia, who's been, I think she lives in the South Bay. She's goes to LMU, but she's kind of inched her way into that training block. And I mean, she's the best at it. Ia is like the best at asking people to play, and like is so into it. And I like, when she asks me to play, it's hard. Like, I hate saying no if I've got something to do, because she always gets really good girls. But for people like us, this is a really good time to start inching our way, you know, into that level, if that's what we want to do. And it's scary, because you don't know what people are doing. It's hard to reach out to people coming from a college level and making the leap of faith, kind of like, how do I do this? Do I just DM a girl that maybe doesn't even know who I am? Like, what do I do? And so it might be easier reaching out to like a Taryn or someone like that is on my level and we know each other, versus me reaching out to someone else, you know, maybe Christy Jones. But I think it's important for people our age to start making those connections, because if that's what we want to do, this is a great year to do it, because like you said, things are shuffling all over the place. So it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking, but we'll see how it goes. We have a couple months, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then you got a couple others for you, Ia, if you're searching. I mean, I don't know, like, is Carissa Cook locked in? Jace Pardon, is she locked in? Jess Gaffney, Therese Cannon. Savvy, if you want to try the old UCLA USC partnership, I think Therese, because I don't know if her and Kelly Reeves are staying together. So there's a lot. There's no shortage of options that there could be a lot of tryouts going on this spring.
I think it's a matter of establishing relationships is huge. When I first came out, I just called the one person I knew, which was Sean Scott. Actually, I didn't even know him. I got his number from another Hawaiian. I was like, "You're Hawaiian. I know you. Hey, can I practice?" But that got me in with Hayden, and I just showed up and like introduced myself to people. And once they know you, then your name's in their head. And when they start thinking, your name starts popping up, and then they're like, "Oh, maybe I actually want to see what they look like at practice." So you get the invite to practice. You kill it at practice. Now you're like moving up their list. You could be this, you know, a great skill level. You're just not going to get the call. So just like introductions, just show up at practices and just be like, "Hey, how's it? I'm just going to watch today. Can I shag balls?" You know, when you're young, just show up. No one's going to be like, "No, we don't want you shagging balls and like watching us."
Yeah.
I also think if I was the up and coming female and I'm legit, some of the guys, like, guys will practice with girls, but you know, depend if you can hang, which I think a lot of the top level girls can hang with some of the guys, because the guys have a lot to learn from the girls. All the girls are way more polished than these guys who are just out here like not knowing what they're doing. Like when Travis first came out, right? and but even right now, I'd be open. Like if I got a call from some of the girls who wanted to just get reps and like technical stuff, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I could totally pick." You know, like I practice after Sarah Hughes and we're on the board of directors together. Like I'll totally get out there with Sarah Hughes and like practice. If April wanted to, I'd be all over it, obviously. like for my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, establishing relationships with everybody is huge.
Yeah, Delaney still kicks my ass when she practices with us. So
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's awesome. So this is an interesting question that like really resonated with me, and kind of talking about someone like Taryn Cloth, who's a super dominant blocker, just hand face all the time. Galen Swigart, do you know who that is? I don't know how to say his last name. I don't want to butcher it, but he said, how do you get over a bad offensive stretch or feeling like you can't get around a blocker? I feel like that's an interesting question because it's like a mental thing, but I felt that way before, so I think it's interesting.
I think we've all felt that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch a few of my matches against Phil. It's mental. It's confidence. You can't get demoralized. You can't think like indoors where it's like I might get subbed out, or there's no bailing you out. You're gonna go down. You're gonna go down, swinging or shooting or whatever. You just have to be like, just trust that you're gonna get out of it. But you can't be dumb and keep trying the same thing over and over, right? Mm-hmm. So you change up your tempo. You change up your set. You can change up the depth, which was huge for me in this last AVP. That was the one thing I changed, was my depth from the net. I had Trevor setting me off the net, and it totally changed how I attacked against Phil and Nick. So number one, maintain confidence. Mm-hmm. You can't, once you put your head down and start soaking, like, you're done. Just keep trying new things, and then once one thing worked, boom, I sided out that way. Okay, try that again. Sided out again. Okay, I fixed it. Or I fixed it. Oh, he got me again. Okay, keep switching, And it doesn't have to be complicated. It might be like, I'm not going to let this guy block me. The defender can just accept it. The defender can dig me. I don't care. But I'm not going to get blocked. Sometimes actually going down. Or the defender's like scooping balls, but they're not able to transition. Mm-hmm. But, you just have to keep trying new things and stay mentally strong.
Yeah.
Even if you lose the set 21-9, right? It's still 0-0. You could have played great and lost 21-19. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. I think I'm actually sometimes more comfortable going into a second set after I've lost 21-10, because you're not getting any worse, And that's what happened to me and Kyle Friend in Bonaire. We lost the first set to the Mexican team that we were talking about with Billy. We lost 21-10, and we sat down, and I looked at Kyle. I was like, well, that won't happen again. And because you literally just can't play that bad again. It's almost impossible. And
it's a trap. It's a trap for the team that just smashed you.
Yeah.
Like when we smashed the team we beat Mexico.
Try, you still there? There we go. You froze for a second. We're back now.
You lose me.
Now we're back. But I remember because you beat the Mexican team 21-7, right, in Doha or something, and then they came back and won the third. But for me, like, Try, you mentioned a lot of stuff that I do, because like I've been served almost every ball for the last like 4 years, so I have no shortage of offensive ruts. And one of the things that's helped me mentally is watching a ton of film. Like right now, I'm working on a big writing project on Karch and Kent and the old school guys, like beach volleyball up through the 96 Olympics. So I've been watching so much of the old school film. And like Karch and Kent went down like 10-3 in Manhattan one year to Adam Johnson and Brooke Vandeweghe. And then they won 15-10. Like even Karch and Kent got in these terrible ruts, and then they just grinded and they bared down. But I think for me, what's worked is understanding that it happens to everyone. So it's not like you're this terrible player because you get in one rut. And then changing stuff. My first thing to do is I switch sides. I go, like, if I don't side out 1 or 2 balls in a row, then I just go right to the left. And I don't even have to be that good on the left, because a lefty on the left is just weird enough where it'll get you almost to an automatic side out one time. And then you can go back to your side and you're out of your rut. But you can switch up. You can run a quick set, a shoot set, a back set. You can pull Nick Lucena and just force your guy to go on two, which is a common tactic. There's a lot of things you can do to get out of an offensive rut. But I think, like you said, Tri, just like mentally understanding that this happens to everyone and that no one can bail you out and that it's your job to get you out of it and you just need to figure it out. And there's a lot of options you can do to make the defense uncomfortable.
Yep.
Talking about blockers too, someone asked if Tri wanted to teach blocking, where would he start and how would he progress?
If I wanted to teach blocking, let's say I have a young partner who's really gifted and I wanted to teach him how to play with me, I would start with footwork. I think nobody really thinks of it like that. For me, it starts from the ground up, all the way to handwork, which I think is really important too. But anyone can really, if you get enough reps blocking a ball, whether your coach is on a box or not, you get a feel for where you want your hands to make the ball go in the right direction, right? To block it. The problem is people can't put their body in the right spot so that their hands are able to shape around the ball and create the right angles. And getting your body in the right spot has to do with your feet. I was watching footage today. I won't say any names. Trevor. Where the set's moving, the set's dying, and he's staying in the same spot and then diving with his hands. It was one play, but I just think it's very. I wouldn't be able to block these big guys on the World Tour if I didn't have footwork. And when I'm playing these guys, I'm putting extra emphasis on my footwork because I can't reach. I can't reach far enough to play with these guys if I don't use my feet to reach those angles. So I would start with footwork, and really it's a matter of putting your body in a place. Like if you're running fakes, you put your body in a place where you're visualizing, you know where you want to cross the net and where they're going to hit it, where you're putting your body as far away from that point as you can, without being out of reach, and then getting to that spot as quickly as you can. But a lot of people don't want to go away and then they just reach there. And that's really easy to see as a defender. So like to have that footwork, to step away and not jump from that spot, but take another step. I call them micro steps, like these 6-inch, 2-inch, 4-inch steps. Those are the ones that get you blocks, to where if I don't take the step, I'm reaching sideways. And if I do, I can shape it and penetrate and actually get the block. So I would start with footwork.
I feel like you've mentioned that before, Trya, in a different question I asked. I think one of the most, I think it was a question about like the most important skill in volleyball. And I think you said blocking footwork. And so it's cool that you mentioned it again, because as you're a split blocker and you're still, learning and, growing and being a better blocker, I think it's cool that, that is still something that you continue to preach and continue to work on and think is super important. And you don't realize, like as a defender, you don't realize like, oh, these micro steps, like, throw your hands up there. And then, in practice, I go try and split block and I'm like nowhere near the ball because I don't know how to line it up. Right. So it is so important. And like everyone should know, even if you're a defender, you never know when you're going to need to go up and block. So I think it is important to learn that and know how to front and how to move and make moves, because you can't make a move. I can't run a 4 as a small blocker if I'm not set up in the right place. Like I love running 4s on defense and blocking. I think I love running plays like that. But when I'm a blocker and I run it, I feel like it's just so ineffective because I'm never lined up in the right spot. So I just think it's, I agree with you that it is such an important thing that, people wouldn't even realize is important. So love it.
It's so easy to feel like you're in no man's land blocking and defense, to where you're just like, I don't feel like I can even cover 10% of the court right now. Like I'm just in no man's land. But then other times when your footwork's good and you feel like you can put your body anywhere you want, you can feel like you can take up 90% of the court.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, it happens to everyone. There's times where you're just like, I don't feel like I'm even blocking any of the court right now. I'm just like floating here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I think having that in your repertoire where you know that you can move your entire frame in different places, and same thing on defense. So I'm learning defense. I'm trying to learn a lot about it. I've just been focusing on that all off season. And if you ask me the number one thing, I would say it's balance, like having your center line as you move, making small adjustments and having your center line stay balanced, not getting off axis. And that all comes down to your feet. I'm changing the width of my feet on defense. I do all these squats. I do them with my blocking footwork, and then I do them in my defensive footwork now, which is like work. But I want the muscle memory of like, oh, I'm in defense, my feet just go right to the right spot. So for me, that it's footwork for everything, even setting. Like, good luck setting a ball that in transition if it's out here. You there, right?
Yeah.
Your feet aren't there. So really, it just starts. That's just kind of everything.
Yep, exactly. Travis, what do you think?
For where to start learning how to block, I think pressing. I'm clearly right at the starting blocks. So I think because my older brother, for example, like he'll come out, he loves watching me and Delaney play, and he's like super curious, and so he'll watch and he'll ask questions, and he'll say, well, like, what are you doing when you're blocking? Like, why did you put your hands here? And why did you do this? Like, isn't blocking just like doing this and like getting big? Like, you're like pretty much just like on a roller coaster going up. And I think that's probably, the biggest mistake that, say, a single A or double A or like a lot of AAA players would make is that they just go straight up and they're just trying to take space, and you're just basically just becoming a huge tool for the defense to use. Whereas instead of trying to get high, the further over you get over the net, the more invasive you're going to be to the opponent shot. Like even Phil Dahlhauser, like if you watch him swing, he'll hit the tape. So you don't have to be a 6'10" blocker to block Phil Dahlhauser. You just have to press. Because no one's like, it's very rare that someone's hitting a ball at 9 feet. They're usually bringing it down, hitting tape, or hitting like low enough where even 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" blockers. Like you look at Smedens, who's 6'4" in Latvia, and he gets so many blocks even though he's 6'4", just because he presses so well. So I think I would try to teach the difference, like what it feels like to press over the net instead of blocking straight up and down, because I think that's probably the easiest way to get blocks and to get your opponent in an offensive rut.
Something that I always think about, like inventing something like a tool, because the way I see it in my head is like hard to explain it to people, but I feel like the ball's like a light, right? Like a spotlight shooting on the court, and the spotlight goes to the edges of the court, right? If I put my hands off, like at the net, right, to block on the same plane of the net, it would create a smaller shadow than if I were to press over and put my hands towards that light, right? It would create a giant shadow on the court. And that's the same thing. You're cutting those angles off as you press towards that light into the spotlight. If you put your hand on it, you take the whole court, right?
That's a great metaphor.
I was literally going to say that's such a great way to put it. Wow.
Invent it.
It's visual. For visual learners, it's perfect. Wow.
The volleyball spotlight. I'm gonna invent it.
I love it. We gotta collaborate with Wilson to invent one.
Those are for the night practices. That's why I gotta create my indoor facility I've been wanting to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Travis, I have one for you from Scott Farina. He says, "Tell us about your volleyball journey."
I think we've covered it a few times, so I don't know if Scott's kind of newer to the show, but I'll try to be brief and just kind of hit the bullet points. Grew up playing like every sport except for volleyball. Like you name it, I probably played it. And then I was writing for the Washington Post, got snowed in at my buddy's apartment, and applied for every job south of North Carolina. found one in Florida where I stumbled on a beach volleyball bar in Navarre, Florida called Juana's, where I started learning how to play, just playing like bar, like jungle ball fours and stuff. This guy, Judd Smith, kind of like took me under his wing, taught me how to play a little bit. I moved out here to Huntington after like a year and a half, and I just became obsessed with it. I started playing like 5, 6, 7 days a week, just like finding whatever groups I could play in. Started writing about it, which then ended up creating all those relationships that Tri was talking about, how important they are to kind of getting into good groups. The more I wrote about it, the more I wanted to get better at it. And so I just like kind of got obsessed. So the last 4 years it's just been practicing, lifting, watching, just been like volleyball all day, every day. And here we are now talking about volleyball.
Travis had the ultimate fast track.
Yeah.
Because it was his job to do what I said earlier, right? Create those relationships with the highest level players you can. And that was like, he was just doing that not to play volleyball with them. And then it was like, well, I might as well play while I'm here. And then he's like learning all this stuff and absorbing all this information. And now he's actually really legit at it. You know, he's
So
a little too humble at times.
It's been fun though. But yeah, I would say that, I mean, the biggest piece of advice, like Tri mentioned earlier, is relationships. I think that's been definitely what's expedited my path the most, is just like, and I think a lot of it is that humility and that understanding that like when I practice with Tri and Trevor, it's Tri and Trevor's practice, and that I'm there to do like what they're working on. They're the Olympians. If I'm practicing with Jake and Taylor, it's Jake and Taylor's practice. And that when you do that, like you're more than likely going to be invited back, because you know that like you're there to help them get better. And then once you reach that level, then you can start bringing in, you know, guys who aren't quite at your level, where you get to do the same thing for them. We're putting them in practices where maybe they're outmatched a little bit. So I think the relationships are so key.
Yep. Good call. So I have
the right point.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I probably was breaking up, but I was just saying, like, eventually you're also collaborating on practice. Like, there's nothing wrong with being on the same level. And like,
yeah,
we'll bring 2 teams in, top level teams, and we have 2 coaches there, and the coaches will be talking. And like, what do you guys want to work on? What do you guys want to work on? You guys do this first half, we'll do this with you second half. But understanding what the goals are of everyone at that practice or training is important, because if you're taking away from one of the team's goals or intentions of that day, you ain't gonna get a call back.
Yeah, and I think one of the easiest ways not to get invited back is to put up like ridiculous highlights of the other team looking stupid on Instagram, unless you're like good friends and like it's fine. But I've known a couple players who like they'll go on Instagram and immediately the rest of the group is like, well, they're not coming back. So
That's gnarly.
That's why Travis should post his field legs all day.
Exactly. Just post bad stuff. You'll get invited back.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah.
Jeez. I thought this was an interesting one. I don't know if we've talked about it yet. It says, your thoughts on diet. Is vegan a new trend for beach players? So I don't know if we've talked about diet very much, but that's something that I am not super great at. So it's interesting for me to hear from you guys if you guys are pretty good about your diet. So I would love to hear about that too if you guys have any insight.
Savvy, you got to lay off the Diddy Reese first.
Diddy Reese is so good.
Food joint I could think of at UCLA.
Oh, it's so good. Wow. It's been closed for too long. I need to go back when it opens up. Jeez.
Diet's huge for me. In college, I used to think that Subway was like, boom, I ate healthy. And I don't think Subway is like that bad necessarily anymore. It's just like, it is what it is, right? If there's cheese and bread on your sandwich, you're eating like this much meat and vegetables and eating cheese and mostly bread. But as you get to the higher levels, pretty much everyone's at least paying attention to their diet. And a lot of people are doing it to a different extent. I think some people like myself have gone like extreme, not I guess extreme with it, to where I'm pre-planned. Like I eat these things and I eat these things before practice and after practice and blah, blah, blah. Because that just fascinates me, and I wanted to learn as much as I could about what works for me. But I also, really respect the people who are like, my goal with eating is not stress out. Like I enjoy eating, so I'm going to eat dessert. I don't care if I'm playing in world championships this tomorrow. And you'll see that on the world tour, like Italians aren't going to not eat cheese and pasta no matter what. Everyone just has to figure it out for themselves. I don't think veganism is a trend on tour. I know over the years, a lot of people have like experimented with it. I personally think that you just have to be really aware of how much protein you're getting, and it's just a little harder that way. I like to eat meat. I don't think it's a trend though. And I have seen at least one guy, Johnny Mayer, who was vegan for a while, and I just didn't think he packed the punch that he did when he wasn't. And I also know a golfer who's doing the same thing, but he's just not. There's a documentary. You remember that documentary, Travis, where it talks about
Game Changers?
Game Changers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you see?
Did you see that? I'm like, yeah, I'm vegan. But then,
did you see the documentary that came out, just like putting down everything Game Changers said?
Yeah. Well, no, but I did talk to the USOC dietitian or whatever about it, and she wasn't really a fan. It just, you can really, with a documentary, you can convince people of anything. You're not really showing both sides. But I don't think there's anything against it. You just got to experiment for yourself.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. And honestly, like I've used your diet as a pretty good barometer for like what's healthy. Cause like you literally like, can't eat unhealthy for the most part. So I was like, all right, well,
Christmas has been rough out here.
But a lot of times I've been like, well, if Try can eat it, it's probably pretty good. But I think what you said though, Try, is that like, it's diet's so personal to you. So Kelly Clays and Sarah Sponsel, they have a sponsorship with this gym called Stark USA. And they did a blood test with them where they ran their blood through and like figured out like what foods they're sensitive to and what nutrients they're sensitive to. And like basically what are the foods that are optimal for them, and two completely different results. And so like Kelly can't eat eggs and almonds or something. And Sarah, like when we went to Yosemite, Sarah was just like piling on peanut butter and stuff, but Kelly can't eat peanut butter. And so they found like what works for them, and like two completely different diets. And like me and Delaney are perfect examples of that. Cause like if I have like gluten, like a lot of wheat and like cheese and dairy and stuff, like I just like shut down. I got no energy. Mm-hmm. My stomach's like tied in knots, but like Delaney just thrives off pasta, So I just eat like oatmeal, like basically a paleo diet, like oatmeal, meat, nuts, and like fruits and veggies. And that works for me. But like what works for you might be like pasta and cheese. Like you might be Nikolai and Lupo just thriving off that stuff. So I think you just got to figure out what works for you, experiment with different things. But as far as vegan goes, I haven't seen, I don't think anyone, maybe Kendra Van Zwieten, she might be vegan, but that's about it.
It's very interesting because I don't know if I know anyone who's vegan either, but I just watched that Game Changer documentary for the first time, and you're like so convinced. Like I love going to like In-N-Out, and I love eating ice cream. Like thank God I play volleyball. Like I need to be better. I try. I went to grocery shopping. I'm trying. It's just I have the worst sweet tooth ever, and I don't go to like McDonald's and stuff, but I do love In-N-Out and stuff like that. But you watch a documentary like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like how is anyone competing and functioning when they're not like this? But it's right. I mean, you have to look at both sides too, and like you said, Travis, too. One diet might work for someone and not work for the other person. So you have to test it out and see what works best for you. And I mean, I would love to get my blood tested and see what foods work well with me, because there's some nights where I'm like rolled up in a ball on my bed with my stomach in a knot. And I'm like, okay, what did I eat? I thought it was dairy. I thought it was maybe gluten, but some nights I eat a whole cheese board and I feel fine. So I'm like, it'd be cool to know. It'd be really cool to see, everyone look into that, because I think it would change the way a lot of people eat. Because like, I have no idea really. I haven't paid attention to what makes me feel good. So.
Actually, you know who last year around this time? So last year, John Schwengel. I was like, Johnny, you have any New Year's resolutions? And he's like, yeah, bro, I'm going vegan. Watch the Game Changers documentary. Within like 2 months, this kid, he's like 110 pounds as it is. Like he lost weight and just shut down. Like his body was just breaking down. And he's like, maybe I should bring meat back into the diet. I was like, I think that's a good idea, Johnny.
So you're looking at a bunch of big athletes in that movie too, right? These guys, like, they could probably eat anything and put on weight if they weren't playing their sport.
Yeah.
So like maybe vegan because their body just can put on weight so fast that it kind of keeps them neutral and right where they need to be. I don't know, but it's worth experimenting for sure, and just learning what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. I have another question. It says, who do you hate losing to the most? I don't know if we've talked about that yet, but I think it's interesting.
I got my guess for try.
My friends. Oh, no. Or are you going to say Jake?
Oh, yeah. Jake was my immediate answer.
That's what came up into my head, but then I just said my friends because I was like, well, first, ever since I got on tour, right, there's like these guys that you're chasing, you're trying to beat. And like these guys, the Phils, the Nicks, Jakes, they just don't go away, right? They've just been here this whole time. So I think that's the most annoying, is losing to Phil and Jake.
I would, for me, hands down, no question, Bill Kolinske. And I say that with like the utmost respect, and I mean that as a compliment. But me and Bill, I've probably played him 8 or 9 times in various main draws, and I've lost in 6 times in a row. And it's been just more and more tragic, just one after the next. Like in the country quota for Mexico, me and Mike Bogue were up. We won the first set, and we were up in the third, maybe like 8-6. And Bill blocked me. He might have blocked me like 6 straight times to get to 12-8. It was so bad. And then in Manhattan Beach, this one, like I still can't sleep at night over this one. Me and Rafi were playing Bill Kolinske and Eric Baranek in the second round, and we won the first set 21-10, like cruising. And then we're up 16-13 in the second. And they hadn't really served me much all day because I was playing on the left, and it's a little weirder over there. And then Bill comes back, and sure enough, just puts the clamps down, roosts me. They win the second, win the third, go on to take a third in Manhattan after me and Rafi were up 21-10. And we're 5 points away from just sealing the deal in the second. So I got to go with Kolinske just because he just figures out a way to beat me. And me and Bill are pretty good friends. Love the guy, but it just breaks my heart to keep losing to him like that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I'm trying to think of who I would hate losing to most.
I was wondering if the LSU girls might be up there for you, just because you play them so much. It's like a good rivalry.
Yeah, I definitely hate lose. Yeah, I mean I hate losing in general, but I'm thinking of the LSU girls, and they have approached me. Like Claire Capola approached me right before we played them at LSU, and that environment was just like absolutely electric. It was like the most insane thing ever. And she came up to me. I don't know. This went through my head, but I was like, is she trying to distract me right now? She came up to me and was like, I like shagged a ball for her, and she came up to me in warm-ups and was like, I just need to tell you that like my team and I, we think like you're so sweet, and like you're, we like respect you, and think it's so fun to play against you. And like, I mean, before I'm playing a game, I'm like, why'd she say that to me? And then I start thinking, but I genuinely think that they are such nice people. They're such nice girls. And so it's like, I don't hate losing to them because it's so much respect, and it's always a close game that it's like, it could go either way. And so I love playing those games. Obviously I hate losing, but playing against people like that it's so awesome. Just the mutual level of respect. And then it's crazy too. I mean, I try and play most of my games where I have a big respect for the people I play. So even playing against USC, I played against Haley Hallgren and Haley Harward a bunch last year, and I don't think I lost to them. I think me and Abby beat them, but I just think that, especially in college as a senior too, it's like there's no bad blood type of thing, and so losing sucks obviously, but it's fun. I don't have a person in particular, but I really hate losing to people who like scream super loud and cheer super loud, because that's what gets me pissed and super fired up. And when I lose to someone like that, that bothers me. I can't think of anyone in particular, but.
Did you ever play Nicolette Martin?
I didn't at all. And
Okay.
I used to watch those games and be like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But then I've talked to her before, and she's like the nicest, like she's so nice. And I was friends with her now husband, Jake. And so it's just, you also can't judge a book by its cover. You can't look at people who cheer like that and think poorly of them, because like she's such a cool girl. And so it's people express themselves different ways on the court. And, when you're emotional and you're in the heat of the game, you might say things you don't mean, you might act a certain way. And so I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I can't even name a person. Maybe it'll come to me later, but right now I can't think of someone that I like can't stand losing to, because I love playing. I love competing. It's, against different schools. There's schools like I hate losing to USC for sure the most.
Right.
But, those girls, I really don't like losing to Joy Dennis. I don't like losing to her. We've played against each other so many times, and she's one of my great friends. I don't know why. I think it's just because we played against each other so many times in like really big tournaments. And there's been times where it's gone back and forth, like for years now, not even at USC, like before that. And so that might be someone I don't like losing to, but it's only because we played each other so many, probably more than anyone.
Yeah.
And losing to people at practice isn't fun. Like when you scrimmage your teammates, that's not fun either. I don't like that. Like what you said, Try, about losing to your friends. That's not fun.
Yeah,
either.
you don't want to lose to your friends. Losing to people who are ranked like an upset, because you don't want them to believe after the match that they can hang with you.
Yeah.
You want them to know that they're not on your level. You try to keep it that way. But if you play, that now they believe that they can, and I'm really pissed about it. You feel like you just leveled them up by letting them beat you.
Yeah.
It made your life harder moving forward.
Exactly. So kind of opposite of that, I have a question from Tim Schmidt 15. He said, top 5 most fun players you as a pro like to watch play volleyball. So I can actually, top 5 players that you like, I want to add to it, that you like watching and you like playing with. Doesn't have to be 5, but some people that you like to watch and you like to play with, whether it's fun or serious, because I think that's interesting.
Okay. The top 5 I like to watch, Try. They're pretty much all 6'5" blockers. Coincidentally, Try, Smedens, Piotr Kantor, the Polish guy, Tim Baumgren, and I love watching the Russians. I love watching Krasilnikov play, even though he's a defender. I don't know. I just think the guy is freaking good. Those are my 5 favorite to watch. Favorite to play with, my guy Chris Vaughn. We were good friends with Eric Zahn, so we just have this like mutual friendship through that way. And we did a snow trip together, and I played with him in Atlantic City. Had an absolute blast. We played a fours tournament together in Florida and made the finals. And I love playing with that guy. Him and Kyle Friend, just morale super high with those two.
Having trouble. Who do I like? I like people who are using their heads a lot, like who are really relaxed and patient and like seeing things really well. That's kind of like what I've been trying to work into my game. So like Taylor is really good with that. He's just super relaxed but ready to move at all times, very smooth. Adrian, where that there's like a little internal game going on in his head and the way he competes. I liked watching Todd Rogers in that way because he's so calculated. Hayden, I like watching Hayden now because I didn't really like fully get to see him when he was defending behind me. And now I'm seeing him play with different blocks, and he's adjusting those guys. I know I just named all defenders. Actually, I really I don't know if I enjoy it, but I like watching Jake because he has really good hands. The way that he can place his hands, and another one is Ricardo, probably 6. But Ricardo's huge, and he uses his size, but over the years his vertical has gone down to like, I don't know, maybe like 2 credit cards. Hands in the right spots. So I'm like, if he can do it at that age, like imagine if someone who's more physical is doing it. Like they're gonna dominate.
Yeah.
So I guess that's mine.
Maybe one more, Sav.
Any?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's do one more. Did I cut out? Sorry.
A little bit. Sorry.
No, you're fine. The Wi-Fi. I'm trying to figure out my Wi-Fi here. Hopefully, I think I'm using the person below me. I don't think ours is working. So I hope I've been okay.
Moving day.
I don't know. We'll see. I know. I don't know who golfs, but someone asked, how many times a week do you guys golf now? Do either of you golf?
Been watching my Instagram, huh? I feel like the only time I'm like at the beach, either filming my kid or I'm like on the golf course these last few weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all been getting into it a lot. Me, Taylor, and Trevor. Trevor's been going crazy with golfing. Like that guy needs to compete and like bet on things. So he's like sitting in front of the TV with Taylor on Sundays betting on that. And if not, he's out golfing. Mm-hmm. And in Hawaii, the weather's perfect out here, and we're kind of on vacation mode anyway. And it's like the best sport to get that focus going again, but without like burning out or doing anything too physical. Mm-hmm. But I just started golfing full courses, so I'm really kind of just learning. Shot a 96 the other day, Travis.
Hey, there we go.
Finally broke my 100 mark.
That's not bad.
Not bad. I'm coming.
Yeah.
But I probably went like once a week while I was out here. But I don't golf that often usually.
I used to. So I grew up playing, like that was my best sport growing up. So I used to play probably like my routine. So I would work at a golf course. So I would either work the 6 to 2 shift and play from 2 to sunset, or I would work like the 9 to 5 shift and work 5 and golf before and after, or work the afternoon shift and golf in the morning. So I probably played every day growing up from 8th grade through my senior year of college. And then now I play just enough to make sure I can beat my brothers, which is like, I probably play maybe 2 or 3 times a year now. And so I got back to Myrtle Beach this year for Thanksgiving. Still kick my brother's asses, so I'm content to take another year off.
It's perfect. It's epic. I actually just went to the driving range by my house, and I've never golfed. I've gone like mini golfing for team events and stuff, and I was always the worst one. I'm really bad at any sport with like a racket or a bat. Like I'm not good. I don't know if it's the hand-eye coordination, but tennis and softball, like maybe because I never did them. I always played soccer and volleyball, and I think maybe because I didn't do it, but I always have such a hard time. And I would play mini golf and be so bad. And my boyfriend now, his brother golfs, and so we went to the driving range, and it's so hard. It is when you're first learning, and all I want to do is have the driver and just whack, like just hit it as far as I can, and that's not really how it works. You gotta start slow, but once you get a hold of it, it's great. I like take my eye off the ball when I swing. I mean, I'm so bad, but it's fun. I like always thought of golf as such a boring sport and something I would never want to play, but the more I've done it, like I've done it a couple times now, just in quarantine. I like snuck onto the golf course at night and was swinging at balls. It's actually really fun. So yeah, I understand why people want to play now.
I think if you're
the more fun it gets.
Yeah.
Like the more you like goof around and just out there, like this is kind of dumb. Like I'm just hitting a ball around. But if you really get into it, it starts getting kind of addicting. Like just shed off 2 or 3 strokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like any competitive person, it's easy to get obsessed with because it's so hard. Sorry, Try. You were cutting out. I didn't know if you were done.
No, you're good.
But I think it's so easy to get obsessed with because, like, you just see that little bit of progress. Like you said, Sav, you hit that one good drive and you're like, all right, I want that feeling again. And then before you know it, you've been at the driving range for like 2 hours.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Sav, appreciate you as always for
Appreciate you guys.
coming on for some fan questions. Congrats on the move. I'm stoked for you guys that
Thank
you're
you.
finally close to training again at UCLA. I'm excited to watch you guys again.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let you guys know how it goes. We'll see. Hopefully we start practices next week. Pray.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see. Yeah.
Hoping for you. Try. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's to both of you guys. Do we have any New Year's resolutions from the Sandcast crew?
Keep learning.
Yeah, mine's just being patient because I'm very impatient. And this whole COVID thing is, there's some days where I'm cool, I'm not thinking about anything, and then there's days where I wake up and I don't know what's going on. So hopefully transitioning and, out of college to play more, just being patient and just keep on going. That's my biggest thing for sure.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and try. We'll be seeing you soon, dude. We'll be getting you in person again.
Get my sweatshirt ready.
All right. Shoots, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.